I was doing this the very first time Tiffany saw me.
We were at a graduation party. I thought he was so worldly. It was his sister's graduation.
So we don't do toasts, but I figured we can do a Tony tribute. I better go this direction. That's the way the wind's blowing. A terrible to Tony tribute.
Oh, it's cold tonight.
That was a better one, wasn't it? I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the flaming hypocrisy of what we've had to deal with in the 15 years of being in witnesses about alcohol. And again, as you've heard plenty of people say that, alcohol is not like it's shunned. Well, there's a bottle of wine right there, and there's another one on the table over there. So that's really not the situation here. It's the hypocrisy of it, and especially the showy display that you put on for other people. So just to highlight that hypocrisy with the whole Tony Morris thing, when I first got baptized, I started pioneering as soon as you possibly could. And I never knew that I had a singing voice, so I never sang before. And so I discovered it becoming a witness because we sing at the meetings. And I had gone through a divorce. My wife had left me as I became a witness. And I won't say that that's specifically the only reason, but it played quite a role. Matter of fact, she said, "You're going to be one of those," as she left. So it played a pretty big role. But at any rate, I would go down to the local sports bar. It's called, what the heck was the name of that place? Dugout. The Dugout. And it was owned by an ex-football player. And at any rate, I'd go down there and sing karaoke every once in a while, just to, blow off some time. Have a beer, sing a couple songs. Anyway, I was in there one time, and the guy running the show says, "Hey, you can sing. You want to run the show?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I guess I'm down here anyway. I might as well get paid for it. What's it pay?" I think I paid like $50 or $100. I don't even remember. What was it?
I don't know. I wasn't even hardly in the picture. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I did that, and along with that, you got a free plate of food, which is usually nachos for me, and then you got a pitcher of beer. And if you know anything about a pitcher of beer in a bar, well, it's like 3 glasses. So over 4 hours, it started at 8, ended at 12. It was it was fine. So until 10 o'clock, it was an underage crowd. It was a sports bar, so families could come in and, they could have
food.
Yep, they'd have food and whatever else, have dinner. And then at 10 o'clock, the underage crowd had to leave. And then until, midnight, that's about the time that the adults got loosened up with a couple of beers and they'd sing. And I'd be cutting out of there about the time people started getting rowdy. So it worked fine. It was, as far as a witness was concerned, it didn't bother my conscience at all. There was hardly ever any issues whatsoever. But anyway, when we got back, they heard this pioneer is working at the local sports bar running a karaoke show. So these 2 elders come in, the elders that studied with me, and they weren't an older couple elders. They were, one of them studied with me, I'd say late 20s, early 30s max.
At the time, yeah.
And one of them ended up later disfellowshipped. He slept around on his wife, and now he thinks he's God's gift to women. Before, he thought he was God's gift to men because, they're gifts in men. And then now he's God's gift to women. Anyway, inside joke. So they come down there, and they're sitting there while I'm running the karaoke show, and it just happened to be an absolutely dead night, which was uncharacteristic. I mean, it was usually, I won't say it was packed, but it was usually pretty busy. But again, the crowd at, up till 10 o'clock was, most of the people singing were just kids,
Teenagers.
Yep, teenagers and tweens. So anyway, they show up there this one night, and it's just absolutely dead. And they sit down at one of the tables. I'm like, "Oh, hey guys, how you doing?" And again, I didn't think anything of it. Newly baptized, just think the elders are my buddies. Thing with Tiffany and I hadn't happened yet.
It was just starting to.
Things written.
It was just starting. Our relationship had just started.
Just started to bud. I just had met her.
Like within those few weeks that he started this.
Yep. So anyways, they come in and they sit down. Glasses of water. That's it. I'm like, "Oh man, you guys gonna bust out some songs with me today or what?" And oh, I don't know, didn't kind of played it off a little bit, but they were kind of really stiff. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. Maybe they'll loosen up as the times go. And I've drank and beer with these guys before. We'd go play soccer together. A big group of us would get to play soccer, and they'd have a 6-pack of beer afterwards or whatever. So that wasn't a big issue. I didn't think anything of it. So been over to their house and had drinks. I mean, it was just not a big issue. So anyway, we're sitting down there. And a half hour goes by, it's like 8:30. They're still sitting there, water's on the table. No food, nothing. I'm like, geez, can I buy you guys a drink or something, or buy a beer? Or, and I've got my pitcher over there and I'm having a few drinks and I'm singing songs because nobody else is. So I'll play a few songs and then I'll sing when maybe a straggler here and there is coming up to sing a song. And, an hour goes by, water's on the table. No food still. I'm like, what in the heck is going on with this? I had no idea that they were sitting there until later, how it all operates. And I think they stick around till 9:30, and it's like, well, this is pretty lame. There's nothing going on here. And then they left. And I never heard a word about it again. I guess Jehovah was watching over me to make sure that, they didn't get any incriminating evidence because there wasn't any people in there. So that was a situation, number one, that was really odd, and it was kind of hypocritical. Here we'd go drink beers at their house and whatever else, and then because I'm working on it,
but you would,
yep, yeah. We did afterwards, yeah. And yet, and I mean we as in any of the witnesses that were around, yep, and then here they're scoping me out to see what's going on in this place. So the second one is more interesting, I feel, and more hypocritical. We moved to unassigned territory, which is in the middle of North Dakota. And if you know anything about North Dakota, there's 600 people in the entire state. So
600,000.
600,000 people. Feels like 600 sometimes when you're out in the middle of the field. Yeah. 600,000 people in the entire state.
Roughly.
Yep. Yeah. And growing, but what isn't for the most part. So we moved here, and the congregation that we just went to, which was 70 miles away from us, it was in Devil's Lake, which was hilarious, by the way. Every time you went there, it was, welcome to the Devil's Lake Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was hilarious to start with. But there were literally 8 people when we got there.
We were trying to formulate how many and count who there was.
Yep, there was 8 people when we got there. We moved in, another couple moved in about the same time. That made it 12. And then slowly but surely, by the time it did dissolve, it was at 19. Yeah. But to illustrate how ridiculous this was, we had another brother, a pioneer brother there, and we're out there playing. We're playing. He moved in after that. Anyways, we're out there and we're talking in service about the subject of foosball comes up. And I was pretty decent at foosball. I had some pretty good trick moves, and apparently he did too. So we started trash talking a little bit. We're like, oh man, we got to find a foosball table and have some fun. So that's what we decided to do. After service, we go to the local bowling alley, no foosball table, and we ask, man, do you know anybody that's got a foosball table around here? And he's like, there's a sports bar downtown, Pros, they've got one. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, we know where that's at, the place with the locomotive, the caboose outside. Yeah. So we go down there, and we get a couple of pizzas, and have a couple of beers, playing foosball, having a good time. We're still in our suits and ties, got our Bibles with us.
It's 3 in the afternoon.
Yep, it's not like it was just after.
Nobody was service. Barely there.
There was like 4 people in the whole dang bar, including the bartender. Right. And they're like, "Oh, what are you guys dressed up for?" It was a good witness, because they're like, "Oh, what are you all dressed up for?" And we're like, "Well, we're witnesses. We're out talking about the Bible." And they're like, "Oh, you're Jehovah's Witnesses. You can't drink." And I'm like, "Oh no, we can drink." And I got that before when I was working at that karaoke bar too. "Oh, you're not a Jehovah's Witness because you drink." And I'm like, watch this. This is a beer. I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and I take a drink. So these people we were talking with, they said the same thing, and I'm like, oh, we can drink. That's not an issue, but we can't drink light beer. And they look at us all serious, and I'm like, so I opened up the scripture where it talks about the Israelites getting in trouble for watering down their beer. It happened to be because they were selling it. And we got a big laugh out of it. Oh, ha, 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 ha. So it was a good witness because it shows that you're not just a bunch of stiffs. So
But
anyway,
you do have boundaries, and you're not going to be just blitzed when you go out.
Exactly, and we always make that clear too. Now, what you won't see is you won't see us drunk, though, and then turn to the scripture that talks about being drunkards and won't inherit God's kingdom. So anyway, we sure enough we got called into a meeting for it.
The next week.
And the brothers pull me in and they're like, well, we heard you went to Pros the other day. And I said, it's a Swiffer. This is our little yipper. What do you think about the story? It blows my mind. Look at them little shoots coming out of her ear. It blows my mind. I can't believe they would do that. All right. So anyway, they call us into a meeting. And they're like, well, we heard you went down to Pros the other day. I'm like, yeah, we had a couple beers, got some pizza, shooting foosball. The only foosball table they had in town. And they're like, well, would you go there again? I'm like, well, if I want to play foosball, I'll go down there again. Well, we've worked hard to build a good reputation in our area. I'm like,
we'll look around at the crickets.
I mean, there's 12 people in this hall. You think that's a good reputation? That's what I said. And it's like, to me, it was like, this is so Pharisaic. It's ridiculous. People don't even think you can drink a beer. Yeah. No wonder they're not going to become a witness. They think you can't even drink a beer. That's ridiculous. There's a point there where I get it. You don't want to stumble somebody, but at the same time, you're stumbling somebody the other way.
That's right.
You end up placing a box around somebody. Somebody says, well, my conscience says you can't drink alcohol. And then somebody else says, my conscience says you can't ride motorcycles because, that's dangerous. And then another person says, you can't drive a car, whatever. Anyway, you place someone in a box that goes beyond the things written, and pretty soon you can't even live as a Jehovah's Witness. So that's what it was like. And it was just such a ridiculous hypocrisy. Here there's 12 people in this hall. It's about ready to dissolve, and did dissolve shortly after, with a whole other reason that involved us and an elder, and we'll tell that story later. And the secretive junk they pull to make sure they don't look bad on the elders, even though they're pulling their card because they did something wrong. Anyway, the hypocrisy was just so glaring in that. So here they are, they'll drink beer and drink whatever else, but they want that showy display, or that I heard one person describe it as the brand not to be ruined. They don't want to give a bad name on Jehovah. That's another whole misnomer. When has Jehovah ever cared about his name? Yeah, his name needs to be sanctified, but never has he cared about hiding wrongdoing, like the child abuse thing. Never has he cared about his name over righteousness in his people. Oh, these are a people for your name, so we need to give a good reflection on Jehovah. That's true, but not to the point of hiding anything. All of the prophets, you can't throw a dart at the Bible. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. You can't throw a dart at the Bible and not hit a book of the Bible, a prophet, denunciating God's people for not doing what he said. He wasn't worried about whether or not his name got ruined. It was like, you guys aren't living up to my name. I'll even use the nations who will, as the scriptures say, whistle at you, wag their head,
I was thinking of those
do all those things against you because you are not living up to what Jehovah says to do. So Jehovah's never been worried about his name over carrying out righteousness. So that's a hypocrisy that will Toni Morris now be called into a meeting with the governing body and talk to? We'll never know that, but I doubt anything's going to happen with it.
I don't think anything like judicially or reprimand or anything. He'll probably just be like, what was that thing that one brother said?
Yeah, so here's another thing.
That's a perfect example of what could happen.
I'm talking to this elder, and this kind of goes into our situation and how we were disfellowshipped. And we'll tell that whole story when we feel we can as we go along. But here we are at an assembly, and he's talking about a brother that was given parts, and he said something he shouldn't have. And this brother tells me something that another brother has said to somebody else. Well, just don't give him any parts anymore. He'll get the point. What kind of mind manipulation is that? The scripture says, Matthew 18, go to your brother. Go to your brother if you've got a problem with him.
Matthew 5 and 18.
Tell him. If he doesn't, otherwise it's just a mind game that you're playing here. It reminds me of people that date and then they, instead of communicating, they give the cold shoulder.
They ghost
the
you.
silent treatment. So you ghost the brother? That's going to teach him? That's Jehovah's way? I don't think so. So anyway, that does not, and it doesn't sink into people. You need to tell them what they did wrong and say, well, here's the consequences. So anyway, that's what we figured probably going to happen to Tony Morris. They'll ghost him a little bit. They'll pull him off. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just pull him off parts, pull him off broadcast maybe, and just
stick him undercover for a little while, and then after a couple of years and it blows by, or a year, 6 months, or whatever they decide, then they'll slowly work him back in. That's probably what'll happen.
Just lay low a little bit.
Yeah, you just lay low for a little bit. That's what the brother told me after we were removed from pioneering and was removed for a ministerial servant. Just lay low for a little.
You'll be right back at it.
You'll be right back at it. What do you mean I'll be right back at it?
There was no explanation.
I said, is this discipline? Oh, no,
it's not discipline.
It's not discipline, but what's going on here? Mind Game Central.
Just spell it out.
Well, we'll get to that another time.
I can comprehend English, just spell it out.
We're trying to keep these 15 minutes. Flame on. And we always forget to say,
like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that when we post, you'll be notified immediately.
We've got some big stories coming up. I'm leaving the beard on a little bit longer because I need to remain incognito for a certain thing. I need a little bit of a disguise. So I'm not going to mention what it is, but I can guarantee you it's not what you're thinking. But I'm going to video it. We're going to video it. It's important in our life, my life in general, and it's a really big deal. And it does involve some interesting things with this subject matter.